All right, it's time to actually add a swerve drive to our code. The very first thing I need to do is actually create a subsystem that will call swerve drive. So I'm going to go in here to my command-based program. I'm going to go down to subsystems, and I'm going to copy the example subsystem, and then paste it directly into the subsystems, and rename that copy as SwerveSubsystem. We do this for all of our subsystems. It'll immediately not like a couple lines in code because those lines need to match the name of the subsystem. So let's change that to SwerveSubsystem, and let's change this to SwerveSubsystem. Okay. Now let's go look at the documentation, and I'll tell you they have some mistakes here. First thing you got to do within the subsystem is add the imports. That's pretty straightforward. Copy it. Let's go to the imports and add them. Cool. There's squiggles because we're not using them yet. Then what you have to do is they have a couple things that they define. They define a maximum speed. They define a file that points towards the directory that has our config file in it. And then they create this swerve drive object using that directory. So let me copy these lines of code. There's a problem here, but we'll deal with that when it comes up. So within this subsystem, I'm going to add those lines of code. It doesn't seem to have much of a problem with creating the maximum speed, though I'll say they have a glaring mistake of missing a semicolon that I'll add there. It doesn't seem to have a problem creating the file using the deploy directory. But however, they do use the wrong, they call it directory, but up here they called it SwerveJSON directory. I'm going to change that to directory because when we initiate the swerve drive, we need to use that directory. Now that being said, it still has a problem. And if you hover over it, it says unhandled exception type. I don't know what this means precisely, but I've been on Chief Delphi and I've looked at some example code. And essentially, there's some exception that you have to handle. So instead of what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete that part and just make the swerve drive. Okay, so we've got that going on. And then after I've initialized all those things, I'm going to go ahead and then assign the directory with the config file in and handle that exception at the same time. I don't know exactly how this works, but this is the code I found that solves this problem. Let me go into their example code. It's here, this example code. Follow along example here. This code's pretty good. It's got a lot of stuff in it, a lot of stuff specific to the most recent game that you could look and see, you know, drive to position, things like that. But I'm really just going to look for what they do to handle this exception. And what they do is right here. They do this thing, try. They try this thing and catch an exception. And if so, they throw a runtime exception. I'm going to go ahead and copy this code. I'm going to paste it here within the SwerveSubsystem space. So I tried now to create a swerve drive, which that matches my name up here. That's good. Using the new swerve parser. I'm using directory, which is referenced right there. And as far as I can tell, it just likes that. It's okay with that. I'm going to get rid of these lines that aren't really necessary. Now I'll say a couple things. This is my second time attempting this video. The first time this part here was squiggled out for max speed. Because I hadn't added that file to my constants. You can go ahead and add it to your constants. The other thing is once I added that, I realized, oh, this code I copied, the part that handles the exception, doesn't use this double max speed up here. It goes to the constants. So I can also probably get rid of this line here because it doesn't get used. Okay. So now that I've got that, I essentially am good. I've created my subsystem. The next thing will be sort of creating commands that allow me to use it and drive with it. So I'm going to end this video here because this next step is also a lot of work.